Well, we were with 14 undecided voters, and we saw a lot of grunts. We saw head shaking. We saw eye rolling, especially in those moments of large interruptions and a little bit of the back and forth. Let me ask a couple of our voters here how they feel about it, because I know, Jacqueline, you said this was a very exhausting debate for you. What did you think about all the interrupting?
I just thought it was exhausting. It was like two people, children fighting. I came here to really try and learn and have an open mind and try and decide who I really wanted to vote for and hear their opinions rather than what social media has to say. And I just felt like I was just watching two people argue and talk over one another.
You said it was what you expected.
Absolutely. It's American political theater at its finest. We only get to see this every 4 years for a couple times. I think 3 debates this time. I was glad to see Joe Biden showed up, just like he did when he debated Paul Ryan for the vice president. Trump had a good command of things, so it was nice to see. I think we have a real battle here.
Maria, did the interrupting make you feel more strongly or less strongly toward one of the candidates?
Well, it's so distracting that I just found that I was agreeing with a lot of what President Trump was saying, but it's not what he says, it's how he says it, and it's so distracting, and he's saying it when he's not supposed to be saying it, that I'm finding myself being swayed against him, not toward him, even though I believe in what he's saying.
Kevin, you said this was a train wreck tonight.
Train wreck disaster, yeah.
Explain why. And you mentioned you actually voted for Trump in 2016. You did not like what you heard.
No, I wasn't pleased with it at all. The whole interrupting started with him. President Trump was very childish. I was also disappointed that Joe Biden got drawn in. But I can also understand how difficult it would be not to when you're hearing, that kind of stuff, crazy stuff about his family that's so clearly not true. How are you going to leave that unspoken and not say anything against it? So I get it, but it was too bad.
But did it bother you at all to hear Joe Biden calling the sitting president of the United States names, calling him a clown and that type of thing?
I think we pretty much have gotten past that now, haven't we? I mean, he's spent the last 5 years calling Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas and, talking about AOC and all the other people. And, so is it great that Joe called him a clown? No, but when the shoe fits. When the clown shoe fits.
Walk with me down here, guys, because I want to make sure we get a sampling on the other side of our group here. You were laughing at a lot of those moments where other people were shaking their head. What was going through your mind?
Again, he's our commander-in-chief, and if you're in a debate, people want to, be respected and called as such. Calling him a clown is just out of pocket, and I just don't agree with it.
I did a sampling of every single one of these people here right before or right after the debate, but shortly before you came to me, and the number of people who called this debate frustrating, childish, a train wreck, exhausting was pretty much the entire group here. Nobody felt really good about what they heard tonight. And of course, there were a few high moments. I'll toss it back to you so you can show us one of them.
Anna, there were some moments that resonated with undecided voters. We measured their reactions as the candidates spoke. Now, before we show you one of those moments, we should note at the bottom of your screen, men's responses will be in green, women in yellow. When the lines go up, that means this group liked what it heard. If lines go down, that means the group didn't like a candidate's answer. Let's take a look at the moment that hit high marks with both men and women.
Show up and vote. You will determine the outcome of this election. Vote, vote, vote. If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early. If you're able to vote in person, vote in person. Vote whatever way is the best way for you, because he cannot stop you from being able to determine the outcome of this election. And in terms of whether or not when the votes are counted, and they're all counted, that will be accepted. If I win, that will be accepted. If I lose, that'll be accepted.
Anna, why did that strike a chord, and do the voters you're with think that there was a clear winner tonight?
We'll answer the second question after we get the response to that moment, because obviously there were very few moments that were high for both men and women. That was one of the highest across the board. You felt very strongly. This will be your first election ever voting. Why was it such an important moment for you?
I think no matter what you stand for or who you stand for, it's important for these elections to go vote, because that is you saying what your stance is. And 40 years from now, I hope that me as a first-time voter, I can be proud of my first election and who I voted for, and I hope that can be the same for everyone else.
Why did you feel like you were really, really engaged in that moment with Joe Biden talking about voting?
It's so important. That's everyone's responsibility, living in the United States, is to vote, to go out and do that and let your voice be heard.
And yet it's such a, I guess, normal thing, right? It wasn't anything revelatory that they were speaking of, and yet in this election cycle, it seemed like it struck such a high note.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's just really important to get out there and everyone do their part so that we're, all of our voices are heard. And
Okay, so these are undecided voters. I guess the big question here is, was there a clear winner from this group? And let me do a quick show of hands, if you will. Who in this group, raise your hand if you thought Joe Biden won the debate? One person, okay. Show of hands if you thought Donald Trump won the debate. And of course, that doesn't necessarily mean that those people who are raising their hands have made up their mind on who they're going to vote for. But as you can see, there was really no clear winner here in this group. A couple of people felt strongly one way or another, but the majority of this group tells me there was no winner tonight.